In this video, I modify this FMF Turbinecore 2 muffler designed for a 1996 CR250 to fit this Montesa 315. First, we need to take a measurement from the center line of this mounting location to the end of the muffler so that we have a measurement on how short to cut our new muffler. I'm just going to eyeball the center line of that bolt hole. And I've given myself about 1/8 of an inch extra because I'm not sure how my bandsaw cut will go on this new muffler. And that'll give me about 1/8 of an inch just to clean up on my 9-inch disc sander if I need to. Now I've covered the muffler in some blue painter's tape just to try to protect it from any scratches that might happen in this process of modifying it. Now I eyeballed the center line of this hole, this mounting location, and now we need to transfer our length onto this. And then with the tape on there, it makes it easier to mark as well. So I've lined up my center line there. And I'll put a mark over here. Now that we have our cut location marked, let's take this over to the bandsaw and see if we can cut this straight. All right, well, that cut turned out much better than I expected. It came out really clean. Earlier, I cut this piece of tubing off the muffler so I could fit it in my bandsaw so we could cut it in half. Now I just went over and I cut this small piece off. Now I'm going to take this over to the sander and work on this just a little bit more because we need to separate these two pieces and then we can move on to the next step. I acquired an old beat up FMF muffler that was modified for Montesa. You can see the piece of tubing that we're going to need to machine. These end caps are a little bit different and I would probably have a hard time getting in there and welding. Maybe TIG if you have a long stick out, but I think I'm gonna try to machine a reducer that will just stick through here and then I can weld on this outer side. So I have a piece of 1/4 inch wall tubing that we'll chuck up in the lathe and see if we can machine an adapter. Okay, I need to take a little bit off the inside so that this will slide inside. And keep in mind, this is only my second time using a lathe. My first time I made this very simple part, so I haven't had any training on the lathe. I'm just trying to figure it out. Perfect. Okay, this has to be 35.5 millimeters inside diameter, so we'll check that right now. All right, here's the adapter we just made. Make sure that fits on those O-rings. Okay, this tube slides into a ring up in this muffler. You can kind of see it up in there. That ring is right there, and that will help us determine the length of this tubing because we'll need to cut it. For now, we'll go ahead, slide this in here, and I think I'll try tack welding it on the inside, on the ends here. I don't think I could weld in there. That's why my original plan was to weld around there. But we'll tack weld it in place, and that'll help us work on cutting this tube to length. So on our OEM muffler, where it attaches to the expansion chamber, you can see that it's recessed, and I measured that distance. I then transferred that distance over to our new muffler, so our new end cap will need to be recessed to about right there. Alright, I've reinserted the packing into the muffler. We will put some silicone around the inside of here like it did from the factory, and then we'll try to press in this end cap. Okay, hopefully we don't damage the end cap. Got a socket here. If I can't pound this in, we'll take it over to the press and try to press it in that way. All right, that moves. Once I got it started in there, it started to move pretty easy. All right. So, still have a little ways to go. Okay, that fit in there nicely. We'll go test fit it on the bike before we put these screws in. Yes, it's 4 months later and I finally have the muffler build done. After getting the end cap on and test fitting the muffler on the Montesa, I figured out that this mounting bracket was just too tall. It kicked the muffler down and caused a lot of pressure on this mounting location of the expansion chamber. Yes, you probably could have run it that way, but I wasn't happy with that. And at that point, I realized I needed to take some of the height out of this mounting bracket. But I didn't know how to weld aluminum, so the muffler sat in a drawer for 4 months. I had some thin 063 aluminum to practice TIG welding on, but I was not having good luck. I could not TIG weld aluminum for the life of me. It looked horrible and I got frustrated with it and just kind of shelved the whole project. 4 months later, I ended up getting some pieces of 1/8 inch and 1/4 inch aluminum to practice TIG welding on. The thicker material was a little bit easier, and I ended up getting to a point where I laid down some halfway decent beads and I got super excited. So I grabbed the muffler late one night and I made a little pie cut about 3/16 of an inch was all I had to take out, and I welded it together. My coupons that I was practicing on looked a whole lot better than the way my welds turned out on this muffler. It's done now. My weld bead doesn't look great other than practice welding. This is my first real project that I've TIG welded aluminum. It could have turned out worse, could have turned out a lot better, but now that it's done, I'm just ready to get out and take this bike for a ride.